My name is Jerica Mumford, and I'll be walking through some of the setup issues that I've seen on shows that were imported from the old database system, so Show Manager. First, you'll need to browse on the left-hand side to the shows and events list. If you don't see this menu, there's this button in the top that expands and collapses. So expand that and go to shows and events. First, I'm going to pull up a show that did not import correctly. You can see some things came over okay. This is the event calendar. It has a start and end date. It has a website, and it has a contact email. To edit any of this information on this page, you'll hit this button, Edit Event, in the top right. You can make any changes and save. We'll go to the judges list next. I found that the judges have imported from the old system, but if you need to add new judges, you'll just hit Add Judges. You can search for any judge's name in this list and add judge. The pricing list appears that it came over okay. However, it's not able to actually be used. So anything that it was connected to in terms of classes did not import together. So that connection got lost somehow. I actually advise deleting everything in your price list and starting from scratch. I know that sounds like a lot, but once you do it once, it'll be available for next year and it'll be a lot easier then. To delete, you just hit this delete button in the right. To add a new price, you'd hit Add Item or Category. From this Select Item or Category list, there's just a list of kind of default pricing. So if I wanted to add my halter class entry fees, I'd select this. It's going to default to a price. You can change this price to whatever you want and hit Add. You can also add just custom pricing by not selecting from the list. Say I wanted to add stall fees. You could type in a title, a description, a price. You can select whether it's an other fee or a class fee. So the class fees would be ones that are going to be tied to halter, performance, fleece classes, while other fees would be things like stall fees, meal fees, sponsorships. And if it's a custom price, so not from this list, you would just hit Add Custom Pricing and Add. So I recommend going through and adding all of your pricing. On the class list tab, you'll see all of your classes that came over from the old system. I found that the classes came over okay. There have been some issues though. First, all the pricing is wrong, so you'll need to make sure you update those. The ILR points section did not come over well, so a lot of things just came over as no, or there's some things that came over as yes that should not be. So that's one field to check as well. The championship classes did not come over well, so you'll want to make sure you go in and select your championship classes. And this UAP subcategory is a new category, and this drives the UAP top 10. So you'll want to make sure you go in and select UAP subcategory if it applies. To edit any of your classes, you would just hit this edit button on the right. You can select the correct division that it's in. Most of this came over well for me. You can select your pricing. This isn't showing anything in the list because you need to go back and add new pricing. So make sure you do that before you come to this screen. The UAP subcategory is going to have a list here. If it's applicable, you would select the UAP subcategory that the class applies to. You'll want to make sure that this ILR points category is selected as either yes or no, depending on whether it is a point class or not. And then you can select your championship class here. If you don't see your championship class in the list, you can search and select as needed. You can correct your show order here. And most of the age data came over all right for me, but if you did need to change the age limitations on a class, you would do that here. If the class is a championship class, you would hit mark as a championship class. For the most part, it seemed like that information came over from the old system okay. Once you've made your changes, you'll hit save. I recommend going class by class and checking each class and making sure the setup looks okay. I know that's going to be monotonous and it's going to take a while the first year, but once it's set up, you'll be able to duplicate your show next year and you won't have to redo that work. You'll only have to make changes if your class list changes. This show has no entries, so I'm going to actually flip to a show that does have entries. I'll go to my show and events list. I'll search for Cascade and click on that show. This show has updated information. Everything is filled in here. The judges list came over. I went through and updated the pricing list for this show, so this pricing list will work. I also went through each of the classes and made sure everything looked correct. To double check things to make sure things look all right, you can sort by show order. You can also sort by show division. The SD point sort I found really helpful as I was working through this to make sure I got all of the SD points classes correct. So you can see at the top, I've sorted by no or yes. The best of show is a non-point class, so that makes sense. The composite classes are no points, so that all makes sense. I'll eventually get to a point where it says yes. Best in show, and these are not ILR SD point classes. Now I've hit my yes classes. So all of my other classes in this event, I've marked yes as SD points. And that makes sense for this show. All of the fleece, futurity, halter, and performance classes are SD points classes that are valid for the ILR. You can also sort by this UAP subcategory as a double check as well. And this one also makes sense. So best of show isn't going to have a UAP. Anything that doesn't have points isn't going to have UAP subcategory. And then there's a few that we don't have a UAP top 10 for, like the champion performance classes for adults or adult showmanship. We don't have top 10s for those, so they're not going to have a UAP subcategory. But as we keep going, we'll eventually hit our futurity classes, which do have a UAP subcategory. They are eligible for halter points. So everything after this, I have something selected for. So just a good way to double check your show and make sure it's set up okay. I'm going to go next to the entries page. And this one also was really helpful for me. I had entries already in this show, so I was able to see if it had a price in this column, and basically none of them did. All of them said $0. So I was able, once I updated that, I was able to come back here and just make sure all of my entries had a price on them. You can edit your entries by hitting this edit button. This particular animal was not registered. The name did not come over, the date of birth did not come over. If those are relevant for your show program, then you would need to add them here. This is a non-registered animal as an example. I'll go down to a registered animal. A kind of weird thing that I noticed was every now and then I would have an animal entered into a class with the same class ID number, but the classes were entirely different and it wasn't quite right. So this animal, for example, he was entered in Shorn Surrey Fleece, class ID 2425. And then he was also entered in like medium wool female juvenile. And it just made no sense. It's a male. I just had to delete that second class. I'm not really sure what happened there. I think something to do with the class ID number just got a little weird in the import. So you might just double check your entries if you had entries imported from the old system to make sure they make sense and that they match what your exhibitors signed up for. Again, you can edit here or you can delete here. You also have the ability to download all of the invoices from your entries. So you just hit download invoice. It'll generate all of the invoices for your show. I found this really helpful too. I could check to see if something had a $0 pricing and then I could go and fix. So these were composite classes, which were $0. So those ones were okay. But I wanted to make sure that all of these had pricing and that the pricing made sense. You can just scroll through and see all of the invoices. You can download it as a PDF. I found that really helpful as well. The item entries also came over very strange. In the old system, you had to select a quantity, whether you were buying nothing or you were buying something. And so anything that had a 0 quantity came through. Luckily, it shows as $0. Anything entered going forward isn't going to have these amounts come through. So this is really just a problem for entries that were done in the old system by exhibitors that got imported into the new system. It won't be a problem for any new exhibitors. It also just shows as $0. So the impact isn't going to be big. This is the results page where you would come and add results after your show is done. You would just say add results. It takes a minute. You would select the class, you would enter your placements, and you would hit submit results. You can then review any of your placements here. So if you were missing something, you could scroll through and see, okay, there's no placements on this class. I need to make sure that I update those. Before your show happens, once you have all of your entries in Show Manager, you can download your show program. So you have all your entries, you would just hit download show program, and it's going to generate a CSV file. I will note, it depended on the browser that I was using that this worked correctly. I'm using Google Chrome, which is what our developers recommend. I also used Safari, and I wasn't able to download this. So if you're having issues when you hit download, try Google Chrome. So this is now in my downloads folder. I have all of my classes. I have my animals that were entered, the exhibitor, the farm name, and then I can use this form to make a show program from. This is similar to the animal results form that was generated in the last system. When you're done entering your results, you can hit publish results here. Your championship entries are going to show up here. I will note, it was difficult to get the championship entries to work exactly like it did in the old system. The old system narrowed down who was eligible for the championship show by who won first and second. The new website is going to just list everyone in the classes, and then you'll select your placements for the championship class from the whole list of entries. It's a little less streamlined, but the functionality is there to be able to enter the placements correctly. Similar here, you'll add your results and then you can publish. To enter new animals, you go to entries, add animal entry. You'll enter either their ILR ID number or you can search and add the animal. To add classes, this is going to give you a short list, but you can also add as many classes as you want. So if you wanted to add a novice performance class and a halter class, you can keep adding classes. Here is where you would assign a show number for the animal and the exhibitor. So you can do a non-member exhibitor. If they aren't an ILR member, you would check that button. Or you can search this list by name to find the exhibitor. You can also add an unregistered animal, and that will allow you to type in the name and the birth date of the animal. I believe I covered the basics on editing your show, making sure everything looks okay. If you do have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is available on the ILR website under the members list. You can search my name, and you can find my information here. So feel free to reach out as you work through this. I know that it's a little bit of a lift at first, but in the future, you'll just be able to duplicate your show and it'll be a lot easier. Thank you for watching this video.